Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Dear students, you are welcome in this class. So, in this class we are going to discuss management of crop residues for soil fertility and crop productivity improvement. How these crop residue management can be useful in enhancing soil fertility and crop productivity. Overall, the learning objective of this lecture are to understand the management options of crop residues, how best we can manage, what are the alternatives for management of crop residues, we will discuss that, and then explain the benefits of adding crop residues in conservation agriculture as well as in conventional agriculture. What are the benefits with respect to soil fertility and crop productivity? So, all these subjects we are going to discuss. But before we actually start the things, let us see some words which are associated with this lecture. So, biochar, you must have heard this term. It is basically charcoal made up of carbon, full carbon, a stable solid which is rich in carbon obtained by the pyrolysis of biomass and primarily used as an organic amendment in soil. Biomass, it is taken as a total weight of living or recently living matter derived from animals and plants is biomass, often referring to plant biomass that includes all the components of the plants. Crop diversification, addition of new crops or cropping system to agricultural production on a particular farm, taking into account the different returns from value added crops with complementary marketing opportunity. Overall, crop diversification means you are having variety of crops, you are following the crop rotations, you are having intercropping systems, so that you are having many different kind of crops in your cropping systems. That is your crop diversification. Conservation agriculture, it promotes maintenance of a permanent soil cover, minimum soil disturbance and diversification of plant species, mainly through crop rotations. Crop residues, the crop biomass left after removal of the main produce, that is grain, from the field, including straw, stalk, stubbles, trash and husk, etc. Cropping system, the cropping patterns used on a farm and their interaction with farm resources, other farm enterprises and available technology is your cropping system. Immobilization of nutrient, particularly with respect to nitrogen, a process in which inorganic nutrients elements are converted to organic forms and they become unavailable to the plants. This is known as immobilization. Then mineralization, it is opposite of mobilization, the microbial breakdown of complex organic or mineral substances into inorganic forms, and these inorganic forms are available for the plant uptake. Minimum tillage, the least amount of cultivation to prepare a seed bed, aim to reduce the energy consumption, conserve moisture and retain plant cover to minimize the soil erosion. Then what is soil erosion? Removal of the surface soil by rain or irrigation water, wind, ice or other natural anthropogenic causes and its deposition elsewhere. Or to be simple and precise, soil erosion is the detachment and transport of soil particle from one place and its deposition at another place is your soil erosion, and it is mainly mediated by water or wind. Then zero tillage, it simply involves the absence of tillage or plowing operations on the soil. Crops are planted directly into a seed bed, not tilled after harvesting the previous crop. Means there is no tillage, there is no plowing of the land. that kind of tillage is zero tillage or no tillage. Now let us see how these crop residues value for soil fertility management. So soil fertility of Indian soils is continuously declining or depleting, mainly due to the nutrient mining. Nutrient mining means you are adding less and removing more. It is just like your bank account. In your bank account, you are just drawing money, you are not depositing back. So sometimes one may become bankrupt. There may be some negative kind of things. So it is nutrient mining means we are adding less of the nutrients and removing more of the nutrients from the soil. So soil erosion is also there, because of which we lose organic matter, we lose nutrients from the surface soil. Intensive cropping system, we are growing 2, 3, 4 crops in a year. That means we remove lot of nutrients from the soil. So, and also reduce use of organic inputs. Now mechanized farming is happening. Farmers started buying tractors, and because of this they stopped or they reduced the number of animals they used to keep on their farm. So because of this there is less production, less availability of farmyard manure. And almost 50% soils are deficient in nitrogen and zinc in India. And similarly, the status of other nutrients in soil is also declining. Integrated nutrient management is an efficient option to restore soil health and sustain the productivity of intensive cropping system. Through research or through long-term experiment, it has been very well established that integrated nutrient management is a better option that can give you sufficient food and that does not pollute the environment, and it also improves the soil health. So from all point of views, this INM is the excellent options, and these crop residues can be part of INM directly or indirectly. Directly means they can be straightway used in the field, incorporated in the soil, or they can be surface applied. And also indirectly means they can be composted, and this composted residue can be brought back to the soil for improvement of fertility and productivity. So crop residues are the materials left on cultivated land after the crop has been harvested. So this is how one can define the crop residues. Crop residues could be effectively utilized as a component of integrated nutrient management. So that way we can reduce the consumption or requirement of chemical or mineral fertilizer if we use crop residues. Such use of crop residues would not only improve the soil fertility, but stop the burning of some crop residues, which causes environmental pollution. We are very well aware of the burning of crop residues, especially rice straw, which is burnt every winter season during the month of October, November, in Delhi, in your Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, and some other parts where this rice residue burning is quite a serious issue. So we need to think from that perspective, can we stop this burning and use this residue for soil fertility improvement. So such use of crop residues would not only improve the soil fertility, but stop the burning of some crop residues which causes environmental pollution. So this pollution is many times very dangerous. Human beings suffers, the health issues come into pictures, sometimes accidents happens on the road. So these are the issues associated with residue burning. And of course we are losing the nutrient. Most of the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen is lost if you burn the residues, and also part of nitrogen and part of sulfur is also lost when we burn these residues. So the use of crop residues have been reported to improve the chemical, physical and biological properties or health of the soil. Now see the status of crop residues, how much we are producing, how much we are burning, how much we can recycle, how much we can use for the improvement of soil fertility and productivity. So approximately 500 to 500 million tons of crop residues are produced per year in the country, which is very large amount really. Or approximately 250 million tons of residues are produced annually in rice wheat system in the Indo-Gangetic plains. Means roughly half of the total residues produced in India are produced in rice wheat cropping system belt of India that falls in Indo-Gangetic plains. A large chunk of crop residues in these areas is burnt by the farmer, resulting in pollution. This is very serious issue. About 25% of the nitrogen and phosphorus and 50% of the sulfur and 75% of the potassium uptake by cereal crops are retained in crop residues. Means out of 100 units of nutrients removed by rice crop, about 25% of nitrogen and phosphorus is in straw, 50% of sulfur is in straw, and 75% of potassium is in straw. That is the meaning of this statement. Huge amounts available for retaining in fields or for removing from the field or some alternative uses. Crop residues can be used for a variety of purposes. There are number of uses, number of alternative uses also. So, first let us see the composition of different residues. So, cereal crops contribute the maximum residues. Out of 100 units of the crop residues in the country, 70 unit or 70% crop residues are from cereals. The next is your fiber crops, maybe cotton, maybe jute. About 13% crop residues are from fiber crops, 6% oil seed crops like mustard, other crops 6%, and your pulses very meager, just 3%, and sugarcane crop 2%. So, this is how different crops are contributing towards the crop residues in the country. See, this is just a picture to show you undecomposed crop residues which can be used as a compost, and it can be used as a manure or residue in the field. Now, see, we talk little in extra about the rice straw, an important crop residue, a byproduct produced when harvesting paddy. Each kilogram of milled rice produces about 0.7 to 1.4 kilogram of rice straw, depending on varieties, cutting height of the stubbles and moisture content during the harvest. So, these are very average values. It is separated from grains after the plants are threshed either manually, usually threshers or combine harvesters. It has three components: lignin, cellulose and hemicellulose. So, what are the alternative uses of crop residues? You have seen burning is happening and sometimes residues are misused. So, what are the options for using these crop residues? The main options are animal feeding, soil mulching, composting or biomanure making, thatching for rural homes. Now, it is not very common feature, but still in some rural areas we make thatches or chappers from these kind of residues. Animal feeding, for example, if wheat straw is there, it is very well fed to the cattle. There is no burning of wheat straw. Regarding straw from pulses, it is very well used as a feed material for the animals. However, there is problem with the mustard residues. They are difficult to use, their stems, and of course, this problem lies mainly with the rice straw, which is burnt by the farmers. However, we can see that this rice straw is fed to the cattle also. Many times animals eat this rice straw as well. It can be used for mulching purposes. We will see how it can be used as a mulching material. It can be of course used as a raw material for composting and thatching and fuel production. Now, I will show you how it can be used to produce fuel also. For preparing bedding for animals, bedding material on which animals can stand can be prepared, particularly during winter time. Particularly rice straw could be very useful bedding materials to keep the warmth in the cattle shed. It can be used for mushroom culture as raw material for industry, and of course, burning is not advisable. So, residue burning in rice wheat cropping system, particularly rice straw, of the 89 million ton of surplus cereal residues, rice and wheat constitute nearly 85%, which are burned on farm annually. This is very huge amount, 89 million ton of surplus, out of which 85% are burnt. So, what is the problem of the burning? Air pollution, particulates greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane and nitrous oxide are released, which are not good for the environment and which some of them are not good for the human health. So they impact human and animal health both medically and by traumatic road accidents are also there. Loss of carbon and plant nutrients. But also there is a question, why farmers are burning these residue? What problems or what things are compelling them to burn these residues? So one thing is that they use combine harvester. Most of the time it is mechanized. Harvesting procedure is mechanized, and in combine harvesting we know most of the residues are left right in the field. So 80% residues are left in the field. Only 20% are removed. So that is very large quantity of residue which remain in the field. And then declining number of livestock. If farmers have livestock, then they can feed even the rice straw to the cattle, to the animals. But in Punjab or in mechanized agriculture, number of animal is declining. Long period required for composting. Another limitation, unavailability of alternative options. Government of India, state government are giving several alternatives to the farmers, but they are still adamant to burn the residues. Maybe they could not get some practical solution to the problem. So anyhow, unavailability of alternative options is there. Fast way to clear the fields. For farmers, they are happy. Just they need one stick of match stick and they can burn the residues, because they think that we do not have enough money to dispose of these residues. So that is the best option for them. However, environmentally it is not good. It is not good from the soil health point of view. And another reason is that fast way to clear the field. Sowing of wheat can be done in time if they do so. Controlling weeds, insect and diseases. So certain alternative host can be killed by burning and so on. Now see the characteristics of rice straw. Specific weight uncompressed rice straw is 70 to 80 kilogram per cubic meter is the specific weight, and it has about 15 to 18% moisture. See the other properties or characteristics of rice straw. So it has carbon about 38.2% and hydrogen about 5.2%, nitrogen say 1.7 to 1.18 to 1.7%, sulfur may be 0.16 to 0.87%, chloride may be 0.12 to 0.32%, and ash may be say 20 to 30%. So this is actually composition of rice straw. It is mainly dominated by the carbon material 35 to 38%. Now see the properties of the ash from rice straw. This I am showing that these rice residue can contribute towards meeting the nutrient requirement. Even if ash is used, so it can supply you silica which is 74.67 and aluminum oxide is 1.04 and iron oxide is 0.85, calcium oxide 3%, magnesium oxide 1.75%. You can see even phosphorus is there 1.41%. So the ash of rice straw contains several nutrients, particularly this phosphorus, silicon, sulfur, sodium, magnesium, calcium, iron, etc. High silica content wears out the components in processing machine. The main issue why there is no proper use of rice residue is silica content. They contain very high silica quantity, which is a problem actually. So it creates problem in processing machines such as conveyors or grinders, and hampers digestibility for livestock. Livestock do not like it mainly because of high silica content. Ash content in rice straw is much higher than that in wood and coal, which causes barriers in energy conversion. Now see, this picture is very important. Options for rice straw management and use. There could be many options and some are practical also. Some are being followed by people also. So see the yellow rectangle rice straw, and then in-field options on the top. What are the options in the field? What can be done right on the farm? Burning is the easiest option, which is not recommended. Then option could be incorporation. we can incorporate into the soil. We have machines now that can incorporate these residues into the soil. Other use may be non-energy use, off-field options. Off-field options, we have two further options. They are non-energy use and energy use. In energy use, we can produce thermal energy by combustion, gasification, pyrolysis, etc., or chemical or biogas or ethanol or hydrogen production. And then non-energy uses MDF, brick, high-end materials, silica, biofiber, etc. can be produced. Non-energy use also include mushroom, mulching, fodder, and then other non-energy uses carbonization, composting, and the material which are remaining after composting or which are obtained after composting or which are obtained after mushroom cultivation can be very well incorporated into the soil. So, please try to understand this branched picture. So, there are several management options. The resource conserving technologies that are commonly called as RCTs, involving no or minimum tillage, direct seeding, bed planting and crop diversification are the possible alternatives to the conventional energy input intensive agriculture. So, dear students, you know, due to climate changes and some global warming issues, now it is advised to switch over to conservation agriculture. And for your information, conservation agriculture has fundamentally three principles. One is minimum tillage, no tillage or zero tillage. The plowing is generally not allowed. Minimum tillage can be done to put the seed into the soil. This is one principle. Number two principle is to keep the soil covered with the crop residues. There has to be some crop residues on the surface of the soil to prevent the soil erosion, to moderate the soil temperature and other aspects. And third is your crop diversification. The diversified cropping systems are to be adopted on the farm. So, these three principles, basic principles, make your conservation agriculture. Therefore, in conservation agriculture, this crop residues addition as surface mulch has very important role to play. So, management of rice straw poses more problem than the management of wheat straw, mainly due to little turnaround time between the rice harvest and wheat sowing. So, the alternative options are how best we can use this rice straw. So, baling or removal for use as animal feed and bedding material for animals. Baling here means making the bundles right in the field. These bundles can be made in the field and then they can transported and stored. So, baling can also be done after collecting the material, collecting the residues from the field, bringing them to a common area, and then machine can be used to make the bales. Bales are actually bundled in square shape or rectangular shape, and they are compressed material which decreases the volume of the item or volume of the crop residue. Therefore, baling or removal for use as animal feed and bedding materials for animals can be practiced. In situ mixing or incorporation in the end, composting can also be used, or composting can also be done. Surface mulching can be appropriately combined with the zero, minimum or conservation tillage. After baling, many crop residues can be utilized for producing paper. Even paper can be produced, ethanol can be produced, or energy can be produced. So, now see in-field rice straw management. What are the things that we need to keep in mind for in-field rice straw management? Means the first management is open field burning, which is really not advisable. So, it removes large volumes of biomass. It also controls some weeds, pests and diseases. So, it has some value. Advantages offset by the disadvantages, means we have more disadvantages. Nutrient losses are there, nitrogen sulfur loss, carbon loss, depletion of organic matter, reduction in beneficial soil biota. When you burn the field, the heat is generated, and at high temperature many of the organisms which are living near the surface may die. And also there is emission of greenhouse gases. These greenhouse gases are responsible for global warming, and this global warming can lead to climate changes. And finally, these climate changes can affect the crop production, and crop production will affect the human and animal life. So these are the chains or cycles where one cycle will remain incomplete unless other cycle is complete. So we should not burn it, and greenhouse gas emission includes your methane 0.7 to 4.1 gram and 0.019 to 0.057 gram of nitrous oxide per kg of dry rice straw. This is very significant quantity. And other pollutants like sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides and HCl are also released into the atmosphere. So source of aerosol particles such as coarse dust particles PM10 and fine particles PM2.5. Now the other option and a good option is to have in situ incorporation, means mixing your residues back into the soil. So some farmers, however, do not practice incorporation due to slow decomposition rate, may not complete in 3 weeks. So to speed up the decomposition rate of rice straw, chopping, the first thing is that they should be chopped. They should be broken into small pieces so that we are able to increase the surface area of the crop residue. That will increase the microbial infection. So spraying fungal inoculants, these days quite a good number of some biofertilizers or some cultures are available. They can decompose the material very fast. So they can be added, and some additional nitrogenous fertilizer can also be added to break down these residue faster. So it recycles the nutrients, temporary immobilization of nitrogen and the high CN ratio in the residue is the issue, corrected by applying extra fertilizer nitrogen at incorporation. So this is a practical option and allows sufficient time, 10 to 20 days between incorporation and sowing of the wheat. So if you are bound to do sowing immediately after mixing the residues, then 40 kg nitrogen per hectare extra can be applied. So this applied nitrogen can be used by microbes. So hence there may not be much immobilization of the soil nitrogen or fertilizer nitrogen. Therefore, that is a recommendation if you are incorporating the residues before sowing of the wheat. The incorporation of straw builds up soil organic matter, soil nitrogen, and increases the total and available phosphorus and potassium content of the soil. So this is very important contribution of straw, that it is adding nutrients, particularly nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium and also micronutrients and secondary nutrients, calcium, magnesium and sulfur. All sorts of nutrients are added to the soil, and of course it improves the physical properties of the soil. So this incorporation of crop residues in soils leads to, of course, temporarily immobilization of the nitrogen. The N-immobilization occurs due to the wider CN ratio of crop residues. Rice straw can be managed in situ by allowing sufficient time between its incorporation and sowing of wheat crop to avoid nitrogen deficiency. Crop residue management in conservation agriculture continues. See these machines. So these are Happy Seeder. You can see Happy Seeder is a good machine, and it can cut the residues and it can do the job of the sowing and then again put back residues on the surface as mulch. So Happy Seeder or Turbo Seeder is a good option, and government has come forward in Punjab particularly, and they are giving some subsidy to the farmers. So mulch of rice straw in no-till wheat and other crops can be successfully achieved. The development of a new generation of machines for seeding into rice residues means your rice crop was harvested by combine machine and lot of residues are still there in the field, say 80% residues are there, but still sowing can be done by using machine like Happy Seeder. So this machine is quite useful for direct drilling. Drilling means sowing in rows, in standing residues or in loose residues. So see this picture, this sowing was done by Happy Seeder. Surface mulching of rice residues on the left picture and wheat crop sown in rice residues using Happy Seeder. So this picture I took from the one experiment on conservation agriculture, and see wheat is growing very well in after sowing with the Happy Seeder, and residues are there on the surface. It is full of residues. So these residues are a very good source, very good mulch. So, conservation agriculture based crop management practices are gaining attention. Such practices include no-tillage, they are already discussed. So, under these conditions, we need crop residues as a mulch. So, see what are the other options on the field for management of rice residues. So, one is stubble shaver. New machines have come up and farmers have started using these machines. So, stubble shaver cuts and mixes straw in the field and reduce subsequent farm operations. So, this is excellent option. Then Happy Combo Seeder. So, this machine on the right side you can see picture of every machine simultaneously cut the standing straw, plants wheat, means sowing of wheat is also done, and throw the straw on the planted seed back. So, this is there and this has been adopted by farmers also. Then straw baler. Straw baler, it cuts the straw from combine harvested fields and makes bundles. You can see in the picture it is making bundles right in the field. Then straw reaper, it will cut the standing straw. It cuts the standing straw left in the field after combining or combine harvest and throw it in a trolley at the rear. So, many mechanized systems are available for the management of rice straw. Now, see residue management in conservation experiment, excellent picture, and see how many benefits this mulch will give to the soil above ground as well as below ground. More pictures. Now, benefits of residue retention. Suppose you are doing conservation agriculture and you are retaining residues as a mulching material. What advantages can be there? So, number one is moisture conservation, nutrient supply, weed control, soil temperature regulation or moderation, pollution control, reduced greenhouse gas emission, carbon sequestration, pest control, and more can be added. More advantages can be added to the list. So, see off-field rice residue management in detail before we go to the advantages. So, straw collected and used for mushroom energy cattle feed can be used. Rice residue collection, after collection bundles are compressed into bales for compaction, and there are 3 steps: picking straw, compacting the bales and hauling them to a storage or processing area, and then collecting machine is your baler. Baler can be used. Now, baling of residues. Once you have collected the residues, baling can be done. The straw is compressed to make the base that can be made in square, rectangular or round fashion. The baling machine are in sale in many markets of the country these days. One can buy them. The baling of the straw also help in the transport, storage and market. Because the volume of the material is reduced, material get compacted, so it will occupy less space. Then transport and storage both will become easier after compaction of the material. Now, the baler sometimes includes the other 2 operations, picking up straw and hauling of baled material. A stationary baler with only a compaction unit can be used properly in collecting straw disposed from paddy threshers. So, there are some fixed machines also where you need to bring straw or raw material from the field using trolleys or any transport equipment. A mobile baler, self-propelled or pulled by tractor, is suitable for combine harvester. Now, this is picture of the stationary baling machine where you can see the base is there and it runs from electricity, and you can see the compacting chamber and bale length controller is there. You can cut the length of the bale and decide the bale length, and piston is there, and bale density adjuster is also there, and then at the outlet you can see square base have come out. So, now you can see several baling operations or baling machines in this picture. One is roller baler pulled by a tractor. It is like this, quite automatic system. Next is self-propelled baler. This is also fully automatic system, and gathering machine, loose rice residue. So, these machines are practically available in the country, and not to great extent, but to some extent they are being used by the farmers. Now, rice residues can be used in mushroom production also. So, mushroom cultivation produces food from rice and wheat straw. The paddy straw mushroom Wolveriella wolvacea is one of the easiest mushroom to cultivate. Cultivation of the Easter mushroom Pleurotus species is also possible. You can see two pictures, one is paddy residue mushroom and other is Easter mushroom. And you can see this residues, rice, paddy, extra is used, and this after the production of mushroom, if you want to dispose of, it can be disposed right back into the field, where it can be incorporated back to the soil. Now see, biochar can also be produced from the rice residues and it can be utilized. So carbon rich product, soil amendment to improve soil productivity, that is your biochar. It is long term carbon storage produced by thermal decomposition of organic materials under limited supply of oxygen. Means it is not full supply of oxygen, partly anaerobic condition. At temperature from 500 to 700 degrees centigrade, you can see the picture of the biochar. It is produced from the rice straw and it can be conserved back or used back in the soil, which has great value particularly in plant nutrition and soil fertility. An advanced carbonization technology, hydrothermal carbonization, developed recently. It completely breaks down the plant cell wall and allows the rapid conversion of biomass into a carbon rich and lignin like product hydrochar. One new product is hydrochar. Using rice straw to produce biochar has huge potential. The biochar is relatively resistant to further degradation in soil, hence its production for soil application is quite a viable option. Thus, soil carbon sequestration is a way which can be adopted by applying this biochar in the soil. So, that is why we can conserve soil carbon if we put it biochar in the soil. Now, use of crop residues for composting. Definitely the CN ratio of crop residues and other organic manures is reduced between 10:1 and 15:1. These residues have very wider CN ratio. If we use them directly into the soil, then their immobilization of nitrogen happens, which can create problem in the establishment of a new crop. So, if we decompose them, convert them into compost, and then this compost can again be used in the soil for improvement of soil fertility. So, this is also one option to use residue as composting material and then apply to the soil. So, when residues of high CN ratio are incorporated in soil, the soil nitrogen is immobilized by microbes. This nitrogen immobilization causes nitrogen deficiency in the early stage of crop growth. To overcome these problems, crop residues are composted for reducing their CN ratio. So, see, this is composted manure and it is very well prepared and it is ready to be used by the farmers. Let us see another use of rice straw, that is in the livestock feed or animal feed. So, it is quite common in Southeast Asia, and daily intake of rice straw by ruminants 1 to 1.2 kilogram per 100 kg weight. If a cow is having 300 kilogram of body weight, then 3 kilogram to 3.4 kilogram intake can be there. Rice stems are more digestible as they have lower silica than leaves. Crop should be cut close to the ground if the straw is to be fed to the livestock, so that the recovery of straw is more. Nutrient amendment is often done by treating the rice straw with urea. Sometimes urea spray is done on the rice straw to increase the protein content or quality of this straw. When animals eat such kind of urea treated straw, their protein content increases. Now, production of bioenergy is also possible from rice straw. The residues which do not find any appropriate use can be used for bioenergy, that is biofuel, biopower production. The cellulosic ethanol production by enzymatic breakdown of extracellulose into simple sugars and then to ethanol. Now you see and try to understand this picture. It is used to generate fuel, heat or electricity through thermal, chemical or bio processes. Potential energy conversion processes are actually listed in this picture. So basic feedstock is your rice husk, and then pre-treatment is necessary. In pre-treatment, densification is done through a briquette or pellet are made by torrefaction, or size reduction can be done as we have seen in case of bales, and then comes the processing step. In this case, depending upon the kind of source or kind of output you want, the processing method will change. Whether it is combustion, if it is combustion, then the product is heat and energy is also heat. If it is gasification, that is partial air, then it may be gas and it may be liquid fuel. If it is gas, then energy is electric power. If it is liquid fuel, then it is syngas, is energy. If it is going through the pyrolysis, like producing the biochar or some other thing, no air, then char can be the product and energy can be biofuel. So these are the potential energy conversion bioprocesses or processes of rice straw. Rice husk is collected after rice milling with moisture content of about 14 to 15%. This fits the requirement for further pre-treatment or processing. Thermal processes including combustion, gasification and pyrolysis are applied for rice husk processing. You have seen in the last picture. Energy products from rice husk are heat, electricity and biofuel, may be solid or liquid. Heat generated from this could be used for house heating and cooking, industrial boilers, drying and generating electricity. Now, barriers in using rice straw for energy conversion. There are certain restrictions or certain constraints to use rice straw for energy production or energy conversion. First thing is, major issue is related to silica. The high silica content of rice straw causes the components in processing machines such as the chopper or grinder to wear out, means the life of the machine is less or lessened. The high content of ash, alkali and potassium in rice straw causes agglomeration, fouling and melting in the components of combustors or boilers. This is another limitation. And third limitation is the lignin walls in rice straw hampers digestibility, which reduces the efficiency of bioenergy conversion processes. So these are the important barriers that stop using rice straw for energy conversion. Now see the advantages of addition of crop residues in soil. So broadly speaking, there are 4 advantages that can be obtained by adding rice straw in soil or any residue in soil. So advantages are enhanced crop yields and enhanced water productivity. Number 2, addition of plant nutrients, organic carbon and better soil health. Reduce soil erosion and moderation of soil temperature. Reduce pollution. So we'll see how 4 these advantages are achieved. See this picture, advantages of crop residues retention for improving soil fertility. So this picture is giving you an overview, what are the advantages to the crops directly and what are the advantages to the soil, the lower part or below ground part. See the above part where residue have been used as a mulching material, they are covering the soil surface. So first advantage is that they will lower the erosion, soil erosion due to inhibition of runoff. They will stop the runoff, reduce the runoff. They will also reduce the direct impact of rainfall on the soil, which can remove the soil particles. So residue help in protecting the soil, and then it is also useful to conserve the moisture. This mulch moderates the soil temperature, it lowers the soil temperature, therefore evaporation of water is reduced, and also less greenhouse gas emission have been found because sometimes if residue is incorporated in the soil and land is flooded with water, so there will be emission of methane gas. But in this case, since they are on the surface, so there is no production of methane from the residues, so less greenhouse gas emission. Moderation of soil temperature, particularly in winter where we have low air temperature, these residues or mulching material will increase the soil temperature, which will benefit the plants and the animals which are living in the soil, particularly microscopic organisms. So it moderates the soil temperature. So these are the advantages associated directly with the surface mulch. Now see what this mulch is doing inside the soil, how it is useful inside the soil. Looking outside, but it is acting inside. What it is doing? Better aggregation of soil particles, it is improving, greater hydraulic conductivity, higher microbial activity, particularly by conserving water and also moderating the temperature. High quality organic matter and greater soil carbon stocks and nutrient cycling and better availability, because part of the surface mulch which is in direct contact with the soil will decompose slowly, but the nutrients produced here will go down with the water and taken up by the plants. And another interesting advantage is better root proliferation, because it has improved the soil structure, so root growth is also improved. Now see some witnesses or evidences which suggest that crop residues increase the crop yields and also the water productivity. How it is possible? Crop residues incorporated or retained on the soil surface act as mulches. If they are incorporated near the soil surface, they act as a mulch. It leads to reduction in evaporation, suppression of weed growth and increase in soil water storage. Further advantage is that weed growth is suppressed and the water removed by the weeds is saved actually, it is saved. So the crop yields also increase due to incorporation of mulching of residue in soil. So there are reports whether you do the mulching of residues or you do the incorporation. In both cases, soil properties improve and also the productivity of the plants improve. Crop residues incorporated or retained on the soil surface provide soil and water conservation benefits in rice wheat cropping system. Chakravarti and co-workers in 2010 suggested that rice straw mulch increased mean wheat grain yield by 17% and reduced crop water use by 3 to 5% and improved water productivity by 38.3% compared with no mulch. So you can see there is improvement in grain yield, improvement in water saving and improvement in water productivity. So all these are achieved in a better way. Now both rice and wheat residues can be incorporated in soil without any detrimental effect on the crops of rice or wheat grown immediately after incorporation. So there is no issue, no serious issue with the incorporation of residues in soil. So there was no adverse effect of incorporating 2 to 3 tons per hectare of wheat residue on rice yield. So there is no adverse effect reported by Jat and co-workers in 2014. Combining the reduced tillage and in situ incorporation of rice crop residues at the rate of 5 tons per hectare along with 150 kg nitrogen per hectare were optimum to achieve high yields of wheat after rice. So you can see combined use of crop residues and fertilizer nitrogen is a better option, and this is of course part of the INM or integrated nutrient management. Now addition of plant nutrients, they are increasing the crop yield mainly by improving the physical, chemical and biological properties of the soil. So they are actually supplying the nutrients, and see the potential of nutrients that can be supplied by residues. So nutrients in rice straw at harvest are 5 to 8 kilograms of nitrogen, 0.7 to 1.2 kilograms of phosphorus, 15 to 25 kilogram potassium, 0.5 to 1 kilogram sulfur, 3 to 4 kilogram calcium, 1 to 3 kilogram magnesium and 40 to 70 kilogram silicon per ton of straw on a dry weight basis. Besides NPK, 1 ton of rice and wheat residues contain about 100 gram zinc, 777 gram iron and 745 gram of manganese. So, it has been reported by Jart and co-workers 2014. Now, see content of various nutrients in some crop residues reported by Singh and Rangel 2007. So, crop residues are canola 1, canola 2, lupin, and you can see kilograms of the kg per ton dry matter, how much NPK is contained in the straw of different materials. See the case of canola 1, nitrogen in 1 ton stover is 3.8 kilogram, phosphorus 0.6 kilogram, potassium 8.6 kilogram, sulfur 0.9 kilogram, calcium 4.6 and magnesium 1.2 kilogram. See canola 2, see the wheat residues, they contain 3 kilogram of nitrogen. So, you can analyze this table yourself and see how much is the contribution of these residues in terms of nutrient addition in the soil. So, long term residue application will build up soil organic matter levels and also the nitrogen reserves, and it also increase the availability of macro and micronutrients and enhance the microbial population and activity in the soil and subsequent nutrient transformations. Means it is going to bound to enhance the biological activity in the soil. Retention of residues on the soil surface improves soil physical structure, infiltration, plant available water capacity. These are the physical properties of the soil. It also improves the chemical property like nutrient cycling, cation exchange capacity, soil reaction, etc., and biological properties like carbon sequestration, and also root growth can be included, microbial biomass carbon, activity and species and diversity of the soil organism characteristics. So, overall you can see addition of crop residue is improving the soil health. Hydraulic conductivity and infiltration rate are higher in residue retention compared to conventional tillage due to the larger macropore conductivity as a result of the increased number of biopores that is commonly observed. The increased level of carbon in the soil, that is known as carbon sequestration, help mitigate greenhouse gas emissions contributing to the global warming and increase soil productivity and avoid further environmental damage from the residue burning and unsustainable use of intensive tillage system. Now, you see this picture and try to infer the meaning of this picture. It is very simplified picture suggesting the effect of crop residues and their management on physical, chemical and biological parameters of soil quality and overall soil fertility. And it is this picture is made by Singh and Rangel 2007. So, start from the top, crop residues and their management is the title, and see the direct and or indirect effects of crop residue additions in the soil. So, soil physical property, how it is influencing the soil physical properties, soil chemical properties or parameters and soil biological parameters. An interesting fact of this picture is that all the three properties are interrelated. So, see how the soil physical parameters are benefited, soil erosion is reduced, soil aggregation improved, soil bulk density reduced, soil hydraulic property improves, soil water holding capacity improved, and finally your soil moisture content increases because of retention of residues or mixing of residues. Now, see what is happening to the soil chemical properties. Soil organic matter content and quality is improved, nutrient status and availability is improved, and finally there is some improvement in soil pH. However, changes or improvement in soil pH takes in a very long time. It is not that in 1 year you will get change in soil pH. It takes almost decades to change the pH and electrical conductivity of the soil. See how soil biological parameters are affected. So, carbon and nutrients in microbial biomass improve, microbial activity and diversity, their variety, their species number also increase, and meso and mesofauna, macrofauna populations and activities also improve. So, therefore, there is more organic matter turnover, more improvement in soil quality and soil health. So overall, we can say that addition of residues improve the soil fertility and as well as the soil health. Now, reduce soil erosion and moderation of soil temperature. The decomposition of incorporated residues produce humus in soil, which binds soil particles and improves soil structure. Such soils are less liable to be eroded than soils where residues are not added. The benefits of using crop residues as mulch in no-till systems include efficient soil moisture conservation, suppression of weed species, enhancement in soil quality, and reduced emission of greenhouse gases. The surface mulch of crop residues moderates the soil temperature, particularly during winter or summer months. Now, reduced pollution is another advantage, because if we start adding residues into the soil, if we have technology for safe disposal of residue, then definitely burning events will decrease in the country, particularly in northern India. Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, maybe parts of Himachal Pradesh. If that burning is reduced or stopped, then definitely we will have improvement in the air quality and the environmental quality. So, incorporation of cereal residues into paddy fields at optimum time before rice transplanting can help in minimizing the adverse effect on rice growth and methane emissions. Incorporation of wheat straw before transplanting of rice may reduce nitrous oxide emission due to immobilization of mineral nitrogen by high CN ratio of the straw incorporated. So, you can see that this will help in the reduction of the pollution. First is from the direct burning. Second is, if we put it into the soil, the emission of greenhouse gases is also less. Crop residues are unlikely to have significant overall effects on methane emission in upland crops like wheat. So, dear friends, overall what we have seen today, that crop residues are being burnt in certain parts of the country. Of course, they are very valuable resource and they find many alternative uses. If we burn them, they pollute the environment. If we are able to make proper use of them, we can get heat, we can get energy, we can get electricity, we can get biofuels, we can use them in mushroom production, we can use them for many other purposes. Countless purposes are there, ethanol production for residues. So, one option could be to use them as a amendment in the soil, as soil mulch or as a source of nutrients. They can also be composted to produce the compost, and this compost can be brought back to the soil. Anyhow, if we are using them directly into the soil in the form of incorporation or surface mulch, it has number of advantages. Particularly in many cases, it has been found that they increase the crop yield. In some cases today, you have seen that they improve the physical, chemical and biological properties, and these properties are interrelated, which overall improve the soil health. And this improved soil health will result in more increase in grain yield, more increase in productivity of soil, and less pollution of the environment. Therefore, it is suggested not to burn the crop residues, better to make their best use, and particularly they should be recycled back to the soil, so that we improve the soil health, we improve the environmental health, and we also increase the income of the farmer. Thank you very much.